All right. Thank you everyone for joining with us today. Good afternoon, good evening. Today our topic would be segmentation and activation for Salesforce Data Cloud. And about myself, Anindra, I'm a Chief Technology Evangelist. I'm a Salesforce MVP, and I'm an Enterprise Architect. As found this many certifications, well, I'll keep learning myself with the new technologies, which is evolving in day to day for product wise. I was guiding the product teams also with the different SME as an SME. And you can follow me as in Twitter at Algicheta, and you can send me a connection request in LinkedIn as well. Right. So today our agenda would be our data cloud for marketers, and we can talk about segmentation features, use cases, the best practices, and we would love to talk about the activation overview and the messaging and journey activation and the messaging and journey activation demo as well. Right. So how many of them know we have, as of Feb 14, 2023. So this is our first session where we started Data Cloud. So luckily the day itself, the customer data platform called CDP formerly, now has been calling as Data Cloud. And as you know, during the transition, you may see some references to customer data platform, along with the names of GNA, customer data cloud, customer 360 audiences, and Salesforce CDP. So Salesforce is trying to, update the name, updating the name everywhere, but you can expect to see the previous name somewhere in some places. Nevertheless, they're trying their best to, renaming the names of the existing CDP to Data Cloud. And I've already pasted the, chart link in Data Cloud documentation. So I would just go through it, and then again, you can just go through all the documentation. Let me see if anyone has any questions. Okay, so all right, so this is what the Data Cloud would be. But fundamentally, when we talked about our different agenda that what we have today for different topics we have, so Data Cloud for marketers. So why I would love to specifically talk about today Data Cloud for marketers is, today our topic is segmentation and activation, because the core key competency, the core key element for Data Cloud for marketers are segmentation and activation. This is the area where all the marketers are looking for to refine the data using, the identity resolutions, individual profiles. You've done splendid job. You've done a pretty good job from, the Data Cloud perspective, because we have done the ingestion and modeling, and then we have done the data and identity in CDP. And after that, we designed the data model. If you look at our Data Cloud terms, our Data Cloud navigation, we started with data streams. We have done the ingestion and modeling. So we have created multiple data streams called, we started with Sales Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, B2C Commerce Cloud, and we talked about Interaction Studio, the personalization platform, Amazon S3, and web and mobile connectors, right? So we have used a lot of data streams to connect data from source systems to Data Cloud. And then we designed the data model, and then all the data model, which can be seen under data model here, using our CAM information model, the cloud information model, which is nothing but the DMO, the data model objects. And after that, we use our identity resolution. So these are all resolutions where, we have thousands of data will coming into our system. So from here, we're going to targeting to bring, because we have so many source profiles have been coming into our platform, which is nothing but like 38K source profiles, out of which we design our match rules, our reconciliation rules, our fuzzy rules, and we make our system more proactive and better way to define 38K source profiles from 28K, because we are at least, eliminating the duplicates, eliminating such kind of not duplicates. I mean, we're just finding our best record of identity, and we are figuring out the best way to, give this best identity unified record back to marketers. So we have 28K records have been coming into the picture, on top of which, once we complete our identity resolution, we build some calculated insights for making a large sense for, for the marketers to identify, and then they target these kind of an audience. Look at the customer lifetime value, look at your, the engagement score, and look at the loyalty points. So all those things we can design in calculated insights. Once we design this calculated insights, now the next thing is we can do a segmentations. So the segmentations in terms of, we have a different kind of segmentations here. We do segmentation for, filtering the data that we can create our useful segments to understand, and we can target and analyze your customers. Once we design segmentations, So this is the screen navigation for segmentation, ideally in Data Cloud. So customer can come and landing here with the Data Cloud called segments. So here you can create multiple segments. You can create a lot of segments for different kind of customers. You see, I created a segment labs. The segments where I've designed a population, and you can look at my population, the rules that what I defined for segmentation. You could just grab and drop all the rules here with the different kind of an engagement activities. You can use the direct attributes of individual profiles. You could just drag and drop, and then you could segmentize the data, and you could leverage the calculated insights also inside the segmentation. And we can talk about more in our upcoming recordings as well. And at the same time, for segmentation, once we design the segmentation, now we can have an ability that we can do an activations. Activations are nothing but you're going to send this data. You're going to send this data to, we can look at this. Once we design the segmentation using a filter, attribute, and the nodes, now we can do the publish. So once you've done the segmentation, you have to go on and publish this segmentation. You have to go and then publish, because I haven't published any of the segment. So you have a concept here where you can go and then publish the segmentation. You have to publish it. So once you publish it, the entire segmentation that what you designed for the rules, it will go and then start the processing of a searching and building a segment based on the filter criteria. And you can publish your segments and choose the respective schedules also. You can see you have an option where you can go and then publish the schedule, where you can define the respective publish, because I haven't done any added any criteria or anything. So without that, the system won't be accepted to go and then publish the respective segmentations. But you have a time interval where you can go and then define the schedules. When is your next publish date? When you want to run the publish, this entire segment. So when is the expiration date? What is the publish status? And all the details where you can find inside the segmentation. And at the same time, activation. So once you've done the publish, the segmentation runs in the background, and then it produces a result that what the criteria which you define. And this activation is a process where, so entire audiences that what you segmentized from individual profiles, and this data will go back and then sit under Marketing Cloud under Customer 360 audiences folder. So if you look at this activations, some sure this any of the activations are there, but before any activations, you have to create an activation target. So this activation target is something that you can define to Marketing Cloud. Currently, Data Cloud supporting the activation target for only 2 systems. You have a capability to send the data to Marketing Cloud, and you have a capability to send the data to AS3 as well. So you only have 2 options where you can go and then send data of an activation target. These are all the 2 activation targets currently available out of the box, right? So once you design this Marketing Cloud, so you have an option where you can just define the target action name. Let's take an example, test market. And then you have an option to choose a business tab, the selected business unit in Marketing Cloud, where you would love to go and then sit your audiences back to one of your business unit, and then click on save. Once you click on save, automatically once you design this activation target is a source data, and then you have to go and then click on activations, because once you click on activations, the activation target is the source for you to understand and where you want to set your segmentation. Because if you look at the segment what I've created, so it will search for your activation target. So you have different Marketing Cloud orgs here. So you have to define which Marketing Cloud org and which business unit you want to go on and then set your segmentation results. So you could see the respective activation membership, and then click on continue. Once you click on continue, then it starts the scheduling, and then whenever the segmentation runs and produce the results, automatically this records will go on and sit with respective Marketing Cloud business unit, right? So this is how the complete segmentation and activation process which works, especially in Data Cloud. But I would love to run through a video which talks about more details on this entire Data Cloud. But let's see if anyone has any questions. Segmentation is like creating filtered DEs. Segmentation is something like exactly, Lakshmi. So it's like a filter data extensions in typical Marketing Cloud terms. But what it does is it'll give you a lot of flexibility, because in segmentations, if you look at the segmentations, in filter DE, you can only see the data extension only to that relevant data extension. Let's take an example. In Marketing Cloud, you have a data extension where you have 10 attributes for the data extension, where you can only create filters for that data extension. But here, if you create any segmentations, I'll pick any one of the existing segmentation. But here in the segmentation, what it does is it will give you the complete ability of rules for across all the unified individual attributes. At the same time, the engagement attributes as well. You could just match it. You could define, you have a relation with individual profiles with engagement profiles also, right? The engagement data also. Like your individual data relate with the sales order history data and all this stuff. So it not only give you the relation between your engagement data, it only give you the relation between other engagement data of your attributes as well. Segmentation is on data model. Yes, Lakshmi. It's on data model objects, not data lake or data source. So once you design the data model, after data model part is done, everything, even identity resolution rule sets or calculated insights or segmentations, everyone have to leverage data model only. You can't leverage the data source or data lake objects. All right. Any other questions, teams? If not, then I think what I'll do is I'll just go and then, as I told, I collected some good recordings from my team. So I'm going to put some demos as well, which talks about the segmentation features, the use cases, the best practices. So what today we would love to go and then explain is, so today I would love to explain a couple of things, especially on, I'm gonna open it. So what today I would love to go and, we can learn about us. So number one is today we would love to understand, number one, the segmentation overview. And then you can look at, after that, you can look at the segmentation features. And after that, we can look at the demo of how to create a segmentation, different kind of rules. And after that, we can talk about our activation overview. And then we can talk about our activation demo. And then between this, the demo, these features, and we can talk about some use cases of segmentation as well. What kind of use cases with respect to each and every industry that we can leverage for segmentations. Once activation is done, then we'll talk about how the data flow to Marketing Cloud and where the data resides. Nothing but your customer 360 audiences, your unified individual data. And after that, we can talk about how to leverage this unified individual insights in Journey Builder. And then how we can leverage this Journey Builder to send an email to unified profiles and customers. All right, so we're going to cover this entire flow today in our demo. So we have a couple of collected some recordings from a couple of speakers. Probably I'm going to run that session so that you could see a lot of value, because I'm pulling the data from different sources where you can see some value for sure while learning all this complete flow from a segmentation and activation perspective. How is segmentation useful for us? How you think to use a part of a data? It's a good question, Shruti. So look at Shruti like this. So I have, let's take an example of, maybe I can bring this. Okay, let's take an example of this, Shruti. You look at the Service Cloud, you have a Service Cloud platform where you can pull the data for Service Cloud. I'm pulling a data from Sales Cloud, the Service Cloud, which is phone number, the person name, and the person's address. And at the same time, from Service Cloud, you using your integrations of Web2 case and social customer service data, kind of a digital engagement, right? So you leverage all these channels inside Service Cloud, where you brought data of the customer called Twitter, and you got the customer from the website data. At the same time, from Marketing Cloud, what you can get is you can get only the customer, the Marketing Cloud personalization. You can get the person's name and you can get the person's email ID. And from a B2C Commerce Cloud, the same customer, interested to went on your e-commerce website, and then the person, register with the customer profile first. So when you go to, any other profiles with Snapdeal or anything, so what you do for the profile registration would be, you enter your first name, last name, your email address, mobile number, and your address, right? And let's take an example, you haven't registered. So your guest, you went on guest checkout. So for the guest checkout, ultimately they'll ask you your name, your mobile number, your email, and your address. Let's take an example. So you've collected this many sources of data from different sources of systems. All right. So once you design this many, collecting all the data, if you look at in our data cloud, so these are all the data streams that you are connected, one with your website map data from Amazon source system, your marketing cloud, your Salesforce CRM, sales cloud, service cloud. So you're going to bring all these audiences. You bring all these audiences, and what you do, this is your current state of architecture. This is your current state of data model, how it look like. Once you get the data inside it, what we are targeting to do is you look at the common profile data, you look at the phone number, the person first name, last name, address. You can look at the first name, phone number, email, the person name, email. You can see the common factor across at least one of the system. You see the common factor is email or mobile number, right? Using this, you have a different kind of data coming into it from different sources of systems. So using a data model object. So what we do is with this data stream, we can convert all this data into a data model. Now from this data model, you convert this entire sources data into a respective data cloud object model, like individual profiles. And you could design consent point email, consent point address, consent point mobile. So you have different kind of entities with respect to the data cloud objects. You can see your contact point email, contact point phone, and you can see the individual profile. And you can look at your other engagement data if you want. All this data, we're going to segregate the data. Nothing but all your data as per the data cloud information model, we segregated the data into a proper data model way, right? Now from here, if you look at this, from here, all the source profiles, I got the data of 120K records have been inserted. Total 120K records have been inserted. So from here, I move this to our DMO data model object. Okay. So here we look at service cloud, let's 40K, or B2C commerce cloud, 20K. And I can see the personalization platform 10K. And there's one more, maybe a sales cloud, another 20K, right? So I have this many source records have been falling into data cloud. Now in data model object, I have done my modeling, which contains my individual record, which contains around with all this 120K, and then my contact point email, which contains around hardly like another 110K, right? Because I can see individual data, which is a combination of my first name, last name, email, phone number, and all, and contact email, contact point, phone, and all. So it's up to you. I'm not recommending that leverage contact point, email, phone, address, and all. It's separate, because if your marketers really wanted to leverage address, or your marketer really wanted to leverage phone number, or your marketer really wanted to leverage email, then probably all this data, which you could see under individual table as well, right? So you could see 110 TK records have been found out. Now, from here, I'm going to apply a segmentation here. I'm going to apply segmentation. This segmentation, my marketers comes with a requirement, funny, I don't want all this individual data. I just want to see the data of a customer who has done the last transaction within 30 days, right? Because apart from this, from B2C Commerce Cloud, you're going to build the data of your transaction data as well. I think about your engagement data of maybe 300K records of total transactions have been placed. So now I have a segmentation. With the segmentation, what I have is I have the segmentation which contains my individual data. If you look at this segmentation, what I'll do is I have my individual data which contains my first name, last name, the preferred name, individual ID, and I can have all the rest of other field which I have not captured here. But with the related attributes, I have my engagement data also, my sale order data. Sale order, nothing but the person who has done when is the sale order status, sale order purchased, who is the customer purchased, and I have some relation, my sale order data with my SFID, individual SFID data. And what I do is with the segmentation, my marketer comes and saying that funny, just bring the audiences, only the segmentation last transaction within 30 days. Now I'm going to put a filters here. And then with this segmentation filter, I'll get the data from 120K of customers to maybe 30K customers. So this is one of the segmentation where this segmentation data will go to Marketing Cloud and then sit under one of the data extension. Right. There is one more use case where there are a couple of use cases where they say that funny, let's find out who's our loyalty customer, who has a 5-star rating. So you could apply one more filter, and then you could define one more segmentation, and then you could bring those segmented audiences back to one more data extension. And you could use this data extension for you to target the customers. Right. So this is a way that you could see a real-time benefit. If you can apply all these things in marketing cloud, so you have to apply SQLs, you have to apply your automations, you have to apply lot many things. And consider this is just a small volume. But if you have a millions and trillions of record, let's take an example like 100 million or 200 million, 500 million. So the marketing cloud is not the platform to apply all this. You should have a complete data cloud kind of a platform to support trillions and gigahertz of data storage, trillions of records can be able to handle inside data cloud. So that's a benefit of and beauty of data cloud. Any other questions? Any other question? Thank you, Shruti. So let's go to the next question. I think 2 is a part of our data. I think Jayashree Chanduvat. Can we get a quick demo on how to set up data model very short based on first name, last name, plus email? Definitely, Jayashree. I'm going to explain. Let me complete this session. Probably at the end of the session, I'm going to explain how I'm going to design a quick demo for set up the data model for first name, last name, email. I'm going to talk about a couple of, because we already demoed this in our last session, but I would love to take one more time after this session. I'm going to talk and then design this data model for capturing first name, last name, email into one individual object in data cloud. All right. Yes. So data cloud has a different kind of a package, Jayashree, which is nothing but, so as I've told here, so it has multiple SKUs available where you can purchase data cloud for marketers and data cloud for Tableau, data cloud for core. So in our next session, not next session, maybe next Tuesday and Wednesday, we have our senior director, senior architect from marketing cloud, especially on data cloud. He's coming and talking about all this packages, how you could bundle these 2 packages, what is the cost of these packages, and everything is going to be explained very detailed and neatly. So please feel free to join next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, and you could learn many things on those 2 sessions as well. But without any delay, I'm going to talk and then play recordings of this session, so probably can understand more on this aspect.
We'll cover 5 areas. First is creating your segment, then looking at the attribute library that displays all of the data that has been mapped in during data modeling and ingestion that we covered. Then we'll look at rules builder, which will take that data and allow you to build filters to define your target audience. And finally, we'll talk about counting in the segment and publishing so that you can use that segment in activation targets. So first, let's talk about creating your segment. First, you define your segment target. This is what defines the entity on which the segment will be built. So for example, you could build a segment on individuals, which is probably will be the most common type of segments. But you also have the ability to build on other segment targets like households or accounts. As a marketer, you'll be able to choose any entity that's been marked as profile during data ingestion and modeling. You see that on my screenshot on the top right. And that's what would appear in the segment target dropdown that you see on the second screenshot. What you choose in the segment target will then drive what attributes you see in the attribute library when you're setting up your segment filter. And we'll see that in a moment. The second thing that you do when you create a segment is you put in the metadata associated with it that uses properties like the name and the description so that you can find your segment later when you have a long list of segments. And finally, you'll be able to set a publish schedule. This represents how often the segment will rerun your filters for your segment targets that meet the criteria, and then notify activation targets that a new segment is available. Upon segment creation, this publish schedule is set to don't publish by default. So now let's talk about the attribute library itself. So this is shown on the left-hand pane of your segmentation panel, your filter canvas. It displays all of the data that you've mapped in during data modeling ingestion and marked that you want to be able to use for segmentation. Specifically, the attribute library will display all of your data that is one-to-one with your segment target. That's known as direct data, which is usually your profile data, and the data that is modeled as one-to-many with your segment target, which is known as related data. That's usually things like behavioral data. And we'll dive into these things a bit more. As a reminder, attributes can come in from standard data sources like Salesforce Marketers Cloud via, say, email engagement bundles or any of these bundles. You could also have custom data that you could have into the reference model. And or you could use system data like data lineage that describes the data map, which is actually metadata in your attribute. So there's a lot of things that come into play here that we'll show in the attribute library. You can use any of these things as attributes to filter and create your target segments. So here's an example from the attribute library about the way that email engagement data will appear. Each engagement channel that is mapped to the Salesforce information model, the SIM, or has a bundle coming in through the Marketing Cloud will follow a similar structure. It will have a similar shared set of attributes in addition to these custom things that may be specific to a channel or that you've added. So in this example, we're looking at the attribute library that we talked about. We've navigated to email engagement under related, and we're going to choose the field engagement channel action. We'll drag that over onto our canvas, and then because we're in email, we would look for a value for things like send or open or click and so on. And that would represent the engagement we would be able to filter on. Other channels that would be featured in bundles on the Salesforce information model will be things like mobile push, mobile connect, web engagement behavior. So again, this is a model that is extensible to any engagement channel. Another example, so as we said, what you segment on determines what you see in the attribute library. So in this case, as we saw in the earlier session, we can match and merge profiles, the concept of identity resolution, and use that merged unified individual to segment on. Any attributes mapped directly to individual will display under unified individual as a merged value according to the reconciliation rules you see with Astro on the middle part of the screen. As you'll notice, the attributes that are mapped onto the individuals would have to be one-to-one and they're direct. These are direct, as opposed to related, right? When you're segmenting on unified individuals, there may also be attributes that are just related to the individual that are not mapped directly onto the individual object. In that case, there would be one-to-many, which is why they would not be directly mapped onto the individual object. So for example, sales order, these are not going to display under unified individual, which would be indirect. They're going to display under related. And if we were to drag that over, in this example, sales order, that's going to open up a filter container on our canvas to indicate that there are many records for each unified individual, right? An individual could have multiple sales orders. We'll take a look at those filter examples in a moment. Let's talk about the rule builder. So this is the right-hand part of the segmentation canvas. This is what allows the marketer to build filters for what they define to be their target segment using what we talked about, the one-to-one and the one-to-many data from the attribute library. The attributes that you've mapped in can be pulled in onto the canvas from the attribute library that we talked about, and there's a variety of filter expressions that are available to you based on the data type that you pulled in. So it includes things like on-the-fly aggregates, filter frequency, relative date expressions, and in general, text, number, and date is going to be supported as far as data types. I'm showing two examples in this slide that we'll delve into further. The first screenshot at the top, we're looking at an example of pulling in a very simple one-to-one attribute onto Canvas. And the second example, we're looking at a little bit more complicated container that is using a one-to-many attributes. So you'll pull in data onto the canvas, essentially into what we call a container, which is a way to provide relationships between these attributes within that container. Let's talk about these examples that we saw. The first example, we're looking at a one-to-one attribute that's been pulled in onto the canvas called gender name. So we navigated under direct because that's our one-to-one category. We went under unified individual and we dragged gender name over it. One-to-one attributes are it's actually pretty straightforward, right? We allow you to select an expression or an operator as it's called in the UI and be able to set a value for that. Once we finish configuring this particular filter, we click done, and we'd be able to add another attribute here if we wanted to. Then add a rule with an and or an or, the right operator on the outside of the canvas. It's a really simple drag and drop functionality that's similar to other tools that we have in the Marketing Cloud. But let's talk about related attributes now. The one-to-many attributes get grouped together, and it allows a set of filters from the same attribute group to be used together on this one piece of data. You can see in this example, we're looking at an attribute that we define as one-to-many. We've navigated and related to sales order product. We've dragged a couple of attributes. And the first thing is to set the count as an aggregation, which is the number of times that this segment target must meet the criteria of whatever is defined in the container below it. So in this case, we're looking at least having one sales order product that meets the criteria down below. But here we have also added more criteria to rebrand the query. In this example, we're looking for individuals who purchase at least one product where the product description was shoes and the model year was 2019. Be mindful that this had to be on the same product, right? This is one container that focuses on these shoes in the 2019 timeframe. If we had put these two attributes into two separate containers instead, that would mean something different. Those filters would not necessarily be on the same product. So it's very flexible, right? So introducing this concept of containers that can be linked together with these ors and ands to the right allows us to support a lot of use cases from marketers and allow them to be more specific about what they're actually looking for in their segment. I should mention also, in addition to count, we're supporting other on-the-fly aggregations, such as average, minimum, maximum, and then operators on specific data types like dates and numbers. So once we have set our filters and our criteria that we just saw to build this segment according to the definition that we're using, we want to count how many of our segment targets meet that criteria. That's known as counting. So when you first create a segment, the segment is going to display the entire number of segment targets. Once you start adding filters or removing them, you can request to count again, because that's going to change the definition of your segment and probably change how many meet the criteria. So we're letting the marketer recount at will, and we know that this is really important, the ability to easily and frequently request a count of the segment definition. That's because it gives confidence to the marketer that the segment reflects the target segment that they're trying to create. If they find that the count is pretty off, they could indicate that there's a problem with either the data model that they've defined and mapped, or their own filters is off. And counts are also used as a budgeting or planning exercise by the group who's responsible for messaging. So they might have a budget that allows them to say, I need to plan a campaign that will message, say, 200,000 individuals. So being able to see that count before the message goes out really allow them to adhere to that budget. Final note on our counts, we do excludes based on level 1 consent for an individual. Level 1 consent is known as right to be forgotten or has opted out of processing. So when you first create your segment and performing count, know that is already exclude individuals who have not given that level 1 consent. Talk about publish. So finally, once you're happy with your segment definition, your filters, your count, you validated the count, everything's good, you will want to go ahead and publish a segment so it can be used in places like Journey Builder. You can publish your segment one or more activation targets. So the publish will first always rerun the count to have the exact count, and then it will create a resulting segment in the background. Once that's complete, the activation targets then that have been set up for this segment are notified that there's a new segment that you can go and use. So you can choose to either at that point publish ad hoc, so to just publish it this one time if you have an immediate and scheduled campaign or you want to test something, But in addition, once you're ready for it, you can schedule your publish, which determines essentially how often your segment will publish to the activation target.
Some other use cases and how we're using segmentation for common filters that marketers want to accomplish. In this example, we're looking for unified individuals that have at least 3 email opens in the last 30 days. So it could have been 3 opens of the same email or 3 totally different emails. So we navigated to the related attribute library for email engagement, and we set the count to at least 3, and we pulled in the engagement date time attribute to set that to the value of 30 for the last 30 days. And then in the channel action, this is equal to open. And then when we have that operator of and between the 2 expressions, this will result in a segment of unified individuals with at least 3 email opens in the last 30 days. So this is a very easy use case that will resonate with your marketers and a great one to start with when starting to talk about the possibilities of segmentation. So building on that, the second example we are going to show is a sample of an exclusion segment. So here we're looking for unified individual who have not purchased in the last 90 days. So this is a common segmentation technique to re-engage with customers that haven't purchased in a while and that you might want to offer a discount coupon or offer of some sort. So again, in this example, we're using the count aggregation and we're setting the filter to exactly 0 and then the purchase order date to 90 days to target people that have made 0 purchases in the last 90 days. In the next example, we're going to be looking for people with at least $1,000 of purchases in the last year. So we're going to use a different aggregation option of sum. So then we choose a field that we want to sum, I guess, across all the individual records. And we choose, in this example, grand total amount. And we set that to greater than 1,000. So in the container, we can also add the time frame of the last year. And then building on that example a little bit, in the next use case, we want to look at customers with total sales over $500 over the last year, but only from our point of sale system. So we don't want to include our online or any other channels of purchase data. We are going to use data lineage, metadata on the data object to set the filter to only look at certain data sources instead of all data sources that are brought into C360 audiences. So the data source attribute is available on every data stream as metadata, and we have it set in this example as point of sale in our example. And then one more example, we are looking for unified individuals that are active on one channel, but not on another channel. So in this example, we want to see who's active on mobile in the last 2 months, but not in email. So to get started, this shows you how you can have 2 containers to create a segment. So in the top container for push engagement, the filters are collapsed, but it's exact same filter criteria we're using in the bottom email container. So you can see the engagement date, time of the last 2 months, and the channel action of open. So the only difference between the 2 containers is the push engagement channel, we're looking for a count of at least 1, including at least 1 open in the last 2 months. And in the email engagement, we're looking for 0 engagement. So this is indicating no engagement in the last 2 months. So again, the 2 containers are then tied together by an outer and operator, making segmentation very flexible for all use cases. And then just going through a few best practices in segmentation. First is performance, business value of offering. The product team really recognizes that the speed of processing is a key consideration for a lot of customers that are evaluating the CDP. So a few internally shared metrics for segment count, or you can refresh your segment while you're building your filters and criteria. This is something a user could use multiple times when creating and further iterating on their segments. So the service level objective for this run is less than 5 minutes every time you refresh the segment count. When you're publishing to an activation target, the service level objective the product strives for is less than 30 minutes. And then to help make sure that our customers are successful with the product, product has placed a lot of limits and guardrails in the UI. So some examples of this are number of segments that can be created, a number of filters and expressions. And this is really all done to protect the customer, protect their instance, and ensure that high performance. So the next one for best practices is more related to consulting during implementation, but this is still good information to know during pre-sale cycle to really set the right expectation or level of effort for an implementation and how to prepare the customer on how they're going to be able to get started and ensure a very successful implementation. So I don't know if this is the same, but plan twice, set up once, which with the data product, and especially with the V1 version of the product, where there's still not a lot of edit options on features, where if you mess it up, you might have to go back and reset it up. So it's really important to plan. And even though Audiences is built to be very user-friendly and easy to implement on a lot of the work of an implementation is going to be upfront in that plan and design phase. So some customers might already have this all buttoned up. They know their data, they know where it's located. They have very detailed data model and understanding how it all maps together. But most customers will probably not fall into that category. And this is where a partner can kind of come in and help. And then the next point on this slide is data cleansing, which is very important. Garbage in, garbage out. Marketers might think a CDP will solve all of their problems, but they need to realize early it won't clean up their bad data. So at least we don't have that feature yet. So they can somewhat rely on identity resolution to clean up duplicates, but there really needs to be an assessment of that data prior to loading it into the platform. And then again, there are a lot of guardrails in the platform to prevent someone from deleting a dependent object tied to another process. So another best practice, and taking a step-by-step approach when creating a segment by utilizing that count segment and that 5-minute SLO. It's there for a reason. It'll help, start with one filter and then layer in an additional criteria while you're using the count segment to get an idea of how each step is affecting your count. So if a customer adds in all their logic and then does the count, they may question the accuracy of the count. So taking that phased approach will kind of pinpoint where individuals are falling out the most of their filters. And this approach will also help with troubleshooting. You're more likely to find an error in your segment logic by validating after each step. So the last one is around publishing a segment. Some tips for marketers to help determine the best time is to set when to set their published schedule is in the all segments view and C360 audiences. You can see on the screen here, there are a few helpful fields to add to get a quick snapshot of when other published segments are running. So those fields are last published in, last published status, date time, next published date time, and published schedule. So just like Marketing Cloud, if you have too many automations, queries, or activities running at the same time, they will all compete for the same resources. So look for uncommon times, like in this example of 12:15 a.m. And the last tip is to pause a published schedule before editing a segment. So pause, make the edit, and restart the published schedule to avoid any confusion on what was actually launched or published.
Once you create it and publishing it to your marketing destinations, there are 5 key components in activation. The first one is activation target. It's a connection to your marketing destinations. For example, messaging and journeys. The second one we support during GA timeframe is Amazon Cloud Storage S3. The second key component in activation is activation itself. It's a configuration to publish an audience to an activation target to execute your marketing campaigns. The third component is activate on. Activate on gives you this flexibility to choose different entity types that are related to segmented on entity. For example, if you create a segment of households, what activate on gives you is this ability to choose during activation, not only the households, but also individuals if you choose to do so. The last one, which I want to highlight on this, is additional attributes. It helps you to push additional attributes to your marketing destinations or the activation targets for journey additions or message personalization in your email scripts or content personalization scripts on your web and mobile properties through S3. So to create an activation target to Marketing Cloud, now first step is you need to authenticate and authorize which business units you want to link up to Customer 360 audiences. This is performed in admin setup area. Once you're done with that step, then you create activation target for Marketing Cloud. So you choose which business units you want to activate to and create an activation target to Marketing Cloud. Similarly, to create an activation target to S3, you need to input an S3 bucket name as well as a parent folder to create the S3 activation target. The next one is activation itself. This is a 5-step process. I'll go through each step. The first step is, you choose a segment to activate on. There's a drop down by which you can search for it or you can select from the list. And the second step is you choose an activation target, the activation targets which you have created. And the third step is you select an entity to activate on. And in the example which I was talking about, if you created a segment of households, you can choose households or individuals to activate your activation target. That's the third step. So the fourth step is, I think it's not highlighted, but you need to select the contact points you want to activate. It could be email, mobile, or both of them. That's the fourth step. The fifth step is this additional attributes which you want to push to your marketing destinations, to influence sometimes in the marketing cloud side, like the journey editions or the content personalization steps. So those are the 5 steps which kind of create this configuration to push your segment to an activation target. And lastly, there's an area within activation where you can check the published history of the activation which you have done so far. We are introducing preferred names for activation attributes. What this enables clients is to change the attributes they activate to, or they activate, so that they can seamlessly use these CDP audiences and attributes in messaging and journeys. If clients have created these thousands and thousands of personalization scripts in M&J, they have been using these attributes with a particular name, and this feature enables clients to change the names in CDP when they activate, so that they exactly match what they have been using in the personalization scripts on the M&J side. So it makes much seamless to leverage CDP audiences for messaging and journeys. The third feature we are introducing is enable clients to choose contact points. At GA, we were CDPs, or we are picking the contact point for the customers. We're giving a control to customers to pick a contact point by contact point type. It is personal or business, to enable clients to run personal email address based campaigns, or personal phone based campaigns, or business email address campaigns. I think we're going to expand on these controls in the future releases, but I think this is one of the controls we are giving into to the customers. The last one here is we're expanding the S3 activation formats from JSON to CSV. So both the formats will be available for clients to pick when they activate audiences to an S3 destination. For the marketing cloud. Cloud destination, or you can select to pick when they activate audiences to an S3. Into activations, and you select either customer 360 audience, which I named for a marketing cloud destination, or you can choose Amazon S3. If you're creating an activation target for marketing cloud, you give it a name. Then in the next step, you select the business units which you want to activate to, and that creates an activation target for the marketing cloud. Similarly, to create an activation target for S3, so you click again, new, select S3, and you input two key fields. One is the S3 bucket name, as well as the parent folder where you want to write your audiences to on the S3. So once those activation targets are created, now it's time to create activations. Again, there's a 5-step process. The first step, you select the segment. The second step is you go and select the activation target where you want to publish the segment to. In the activate on, you select the entity you want to activate. To the example which I was talking about, and if you create a segment of households, You can select either households or individuals in this activate on drop down to activate to the marketing destinations. And the other step is you need to select the contact points and also the attributes which you want to send to the to Marketing Cloud or to S3. So the other thing which I want to highlight in this demo is the publish history. If you navigate to one of the activations you created, you click on it and you'll see all the publish history for that particular activation to check the statuses.
For the activated audiences is that we want to inject these customer 360 audiences into Journey Builder for usage within our Marketing Cloud messaging, or of course through Journey Builder orchestration. The key functionality highlight is that these are activated to Marketing Cloud as sendable data extensions in the shared data extension category. So if you're not familiar with shared data extensions and how those DEs are shared amongst your business units, that's a key feature that we want to highlight with this integration. It, of course, capitalizes on the flexibility for the wide range of usages within data extension that's within Marketing Cloud. So we want to go over a few of those here. Once they land in those shared data extension category, the publish schedule, those will refresh and perform an import overwrite on your marketer controlled publish schedule. So we leave the flexibility for how frequently these audiences are updated and refreshed. Quick feature highlight. The customer 360 audiences were optimized for Journey Builder. So these are used primarily for data extension entry events, and that unlocks the omni-channel capabilities for email, SMS, and push activities through Journey Builder orchestration. The basic audience workflow is accessed through Contact Builder. So navigating through the shared data extension workflow, which we'll jump into that here momentarily with the demo. Separate from Journey Builder orchestration, since they are in the shared data extension category, they can also be accessed via Email Studio and Mobile Connect. We do want to highlight that shared data extensions are not yet available in Mobile Push, although we will be addressing that in future roadmap releases. And then the publish schedule, or those marketer controlled overrides, those are performed via the Marketing Cloud import functionality. So some basic data extension considerations when interacting with your customer 360 segments. We put where to find these. So as I noted on the previous slide, the primary interface for where you're going to interact with these are going to be found within Contact Builder. So you'll navigate to Contact Builder through data extensions and within your 60 segments. Then you'll see the specific audiences for each of that particular category. In this case, I drilled down into this particular subfolder underneath that customer 360 segments. So some considerations. So we've seen the end-to-end workflow of data out of Marketing Cloud mapped into the data model, the segmentation consideration, the profile unification. When data comes back into Marketing Cloud, there are some new considerations that we have. So we also want to ensure that if you're activating new records into Marketing Cloud, be it, for example, records that have been mapped into the data model from S3, we want to be mindful and ensure that you've captured appropriate messaging consent for any records that you intend to activate to Marketing Cloud through the integration. Since they are sendable data or shared data extensions, you have the full feature control and functionality within data extensions. So be mindful of the user permissions and access your users have within data extensions. So for example, if your customer or if your users have the capability to edit or otherwise modify data extensions, just be mindful if you have a publish schedule set that expects a certain shape and structure for that audience. Consider staggering those scheduled times if you envision a large number of audiences, so as not to compete with system resources for a large number of concurrent import jobs. Some of those additional edit options is consider controlling the number of audiences in these customer 360 segment folders by applying data retention as appropriate. A quick call out is that data retention is not set by default with the audience activations into Marketing Cloud, but the edit capabilities do allow you to add data retention retroactively to these. Customer feedback drove some of that consideration for us to consider a default retention capability for these segments, but just wanted to be mindful that data retention is not set at the general availability release. So as a best practice, consider adding a default object-based data retention setting for these audiences. And then finally, when using these in Journey Builder data extension entry sources, you still have the full capability and controls for your filter context criteria and segmentation decisions when injecting these audiences into Journey Builder. It's important for us to highlight what we are solving when these audiences come back into Marketing Cloud. So this quick table shows a visual example of what Customer 360 Audiences is solving. For those of you who've implemented Marketing Cloud, you know that this table represents a common data model challenge and setup within Marketing Cloud where disparate keys can represent the same individual. And that may be due to a variety of the channel with which they're imported, maybe the data source with which they landed in Marketing Cloud. But Customer 360 Audiences solves that challenge, but we're introducing this concept of unified individuals. So this may look like a familiar data model setup for customers, partners that you've worked with. So in this quick visual, perhaps I have 2 Marketing Cloud specific records for Sam Smith that were created via an import and perhaps via our Mobile Connect channel. The CRM connector may have sent this data to Customer 360 Audiences via the Salesforce CRM connector and leads and contacts, and those are mapped as the individual ID. The S3 connector, perhaps there's a record for Sam Smith that was sent via an S3 loyalty database, for example. Profile unification based on one of the match rules may result in all 5 of these individual records that were sent to Customer 360 generated and mapped to the same unified individual ID. So what gets sent back for Sam Smith in the record for the sendable data extension upon audience activation? For every unified audience activation, this integration will always send 1 row for each unified profile in the audience sendable data extension. You'll see some of the column headers at the very top in this very quick and visual example. For Marketing Cloud activation, the individual ID will map to subscriber key on the sendable data extension relationship. So from that prior slide, we saw there were several individuals. So which one do we select? And which one will Marketing Cloud use for that subscriber key? For the initial integration, we will select the subscriber key that's associated to the lowest subscriber ID, not key. We use that as the deterministic logic to determine as a proxy for the oldest record. Now, future profile unification as well as activation decisioning rules will continue to evolve release over release to provide the marketer with more user-specific options to declare and determine which record will get sent back to Marketing Cloud. But we do want to call out that for multiple individuals from Marketing Cloud, we will select the one with the lowest subscriber ID. If a unified profile record has individuals from multiple source systems, including on the previous example, we saw records from Sam Smith that came from Marketing Cloud, from the CRM connector, and then potentially for S3. This integration will always defer to those individuals that were originally sourced from Marketing Cloud. Data lineage is maintained for this. So the integration will keep track and will understand which records were sourced from Marketing Cloud, and those will defer over records sourced from other source systems. Similarly, if unified profiles have no individual source from Marketing Clouds, be mindful that new records will be introduced if your segment is based off of unified individuals and there were no record source from Marketing Cloud. So be mindful of that consent capture. For every audience data extension that gets sent to Marketing Cloud, we're going to include the standard fields you see on the left, individual ID, and then the respective contact point channel identifiers for email or phone, plus any additional attributes selected at activation. So in this quick visual screenshot, we have our 4 blue default items, as well as these 2 potential optionally selected attributes, let's say from that S3 loyalty data. So I'm in Marketing Cloud right now. As noted, we're going to go to Contact Builder to find these data extensions. So remember, going to Data Extensions, going to the shared items, and then we see that folder that's already created via the integration. So in this case, I'm going to go to this subfolder, and we have my people with points and all the respective audiences that have been published. So you see these controls are very familiar. So ease of use and familiarity for the marketer was key for this integration. So this is the same shared data extension interface that our customers are used to. So you'll be able to drill down just like you would. This is already, of course, in the application. So we see those respective fields. If the marketer needs to verify or confirm which records were sent, we'll Again, the existing functionality still exists where they can drill down. So again, the normal interface, we talked about some of those best practices. You see retention is turned off. Consider those options to go in and edit or add as needed. As a reminder, as we discussed earlier on the slide, these are optimized for Journey Builder orchestration, and we'll access these via the data extension entry source. Simply create a new journey. We can do multi-step or single step. And select our data extension. And then we see the same segments that we saw. So again, there's my people with points. No active journeys using it. And again, consider adding any additional filter criteria. So again, the existing functionality through Journey Builder orchestration, but wanted to highlight that these are explicitly used as data extension entry sources.
Yep, that's all we have for hope we understand, like, so the different ways at what we have articulated, the segmentation overview on the features, use cases, the demo of segmentation creations, activation demo, how to activate the targets and all the stuff. And after that, once we activate the targets and publish, so we can know how the segments will be populated back to Marketing Cloud and the shaded extensions. And then from there, obviously we can leverage for different, these audiences for different cross-channel personalization platforms, like you can send email, and you could use mobile, you could use push notifications, and then these segments you could definitely going to leverage to personalization platform as well, the Marketing Cloud personalization, which is Interaction Studio. And you could just send the segment back to Interaction Studio and then put them into different segments again inside Interaction Studio. And then you could just, leverage some of the use cases for based on some certain insights of the customer profile, where you can go and then target some pop-ups, ads for the person who visits websites and whatnot. You can design so many things with Data Cloud using this segmentation and activation feature. So that's all we have, team, for today. And any questions, I'm happy to help you out. And if not, then I think we can stop the session. But I think there's a question, Jayshree, can you ping me in LinkedIn so that I'll connect with you and then I can give you some sort of a demo, right? Any questions, team? Just ping me in LinkedIn, Jayshree. Thank you. Anyone has any other questions? If not, I'll just stop the recording.